There's nothing like this anywhere else in the country. There are similar things, but this is the exact spot. The Laurel tie is exactly where the original was. The engines are duplicates of the originals. You are actually reliving the history here.
We're here at the annual, happens between Christmas and New Year's Steam Festival. What do you get to see, David?
So each year, from the end of October to the 1st of May, our locomotives are in for maintenance, except for this one event where we'll bring out one of the locomotives for the 3 days, 28th, 29th, and 30th of December. We do a few more runs than usual, than our summer schedule, and let you get to see steam, which is so amazing. Harnessing the power of steam changed the way they could do everything. It just made so many things possible in such a more effective, efficient manner than they could do prior.
It's pretty amazing to watch these with this cold temperatures, just the power, raw power of these steam engines.
They often compare this event to another event that happened just 100 years later, which was man going to the moon. And I think the comparison is very appropriate because in both cases you had so many people from different backgrounds coming together, beating the odds, overcoming the doubters, completing a task in much shorter time than was imagined, and changing everything, not just within this country, but throughout the world.
This made the United States. Up until the time the railroad came through, almost all of the middle of the United States was shown on maps as the Great American Desert. Even if you could farm it, you couldn't get your crops to market. All of a sudden, the land was valuable. All of a sudden, we became the breadbasket of the world, because the railroad was there to transport those goods in and out.
So this is known as the Champagne photo. It was taken by A.J. Russell, Andrew J. Russell. He was hired by the Union Pacific to document the building of the Transcontinental Railroad coming from the east. It is given its name because we do have the engineers of the locomotives, Jupiter and 119, holding out. We have a champagne bottle here and 2 beer bottles coming from the east. And then, so they're kind of toasting the celebration. And then right here in the front, we have the chief engineers of the actual railroads. So for the Union Pacific, that is General Grenville Dodge, and then for the Central Pacific, you have Samuel Montague.
This is really 1869. It's all steam, all original, an exact duplicate. So whatever I'm doing on the engine, that's what the fireman would have been doing then. It removes me from my life and puts me back in history, and you can't do that very often.
It was planned years in advance, and it just happened to happen out here. It was supposed to be together in Ogden or Cheyenne or some of these other places, but they actually got together here. When this happened on May 10th, 1869, it was basically something that people said couldn't be done.
The Golden Spike was really the first nationwide press event.
Correct. Yeah. It's interesting. We call, sometimes you might have heard that it was the driving of the last spike ceremony. And that is not because they drove the last golden spike. They would have smashed it. They drove the last iron spike to finish the railroad. And when they did that, they linked the telegram up to that spike and to the mall that would be driving. And with that driving of the spike, it sent out the signal, just like when you're hitting your little telegrapher's key. Live broadcast of the first major engineering feat that they could do with that process. And it went to San Francisco, Philadelphia, New Orleans, all across the country, started celebrations.
All right, so can we go up?
Yep, you bet.
All right, thanks. I don't see any keys or odometers here. Tell us how this works.
All right, well, behind you, we have a Johnson bar, forward for forward and back for reverse. By the window is the brake. You see that red handle over there. We also have the throttle, which is like the gas pedal in a car. We have our gauges up here. This tells us we have 135 psi in the boiler itself. This is our air gauge for our tanks. This one tells us our braking. This one over there is a duplicate of the bigger one, and that one is just more accurate. Over here is our water injector. We have a fire that's going on in here. It's real wood because we come from California. There is one known coal source in California, Mount Diablo. And then we have a sight glass with our water in it. And you can see that we have about 2/3 full. We'll let it drop. And we have another means of checking in case our glass breaks. Over here, this will leak out water. It should spit water. And then this one here will have just steam coming out of it. It tells us in case our glass breaks. We have another way of doing it.
Wow. So how far could an engine go on 800 gallons?
15 to 25 miles, and then that way also with the wood. We would fill up with water and wood on the wood burner.
So wagon trains, they averaged about 12 to 14 miles a day is all they were able to do. They were able to travel about 15 to 30 miles an hour by train and stopped at each of these 15 to 30 mile stops, which seems tedious to us, but still with that, cross the country in 7 to 10 days. In fact, it became such a major change and such a major selling point that they said they could make it from coast to coast without missing their weekly bath.
With a coal locomotive, you could get 100 miles or plus with the coal, but you couldn't get that far with the water. So each town along the way that are gone now along I-80 through Wyoming and even down the Weaver Canyon in Utah, they're gone. And there are just a few stops through there.
So that's where you got little names like Locomotive Springs and other places.
Yeah.
So they had to have water and fuel for
Yes, at all
people
these places.
every 20 miles.
Yes, roughly, yep.
It was about $200 to travel first class from coast to coast. Seems like a lot of money for them at the time, but when you consider they were spending thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars every time they had to restock and things along the Oregon Trail.
Tell us other things that you can see while you're out here seeing the Golden Spike site.
But just not too far from here is a spiral jetty that's, on the way past here about, I think it's about 4 or 5 miles. So we're kind of an anomaly with the rocket garden. And then there's the sun tunnels that are just on the other side of the North Shore of the Great Salt Lake also.
So the National Park Service has a really cool program where 4th graders across the nation get an opportunity to get a free pass with their family to go out and see the national parks. So basically, how does it feel that you're the one that gets to flip the bill for mom and dad to go to all these places?
And we have to have her with us, too. We can't sneak off.
Yeah, so you're a valuable member of the family now, right?
Yeah.
And you were before, too, but this makes you extra valuable.
Yeah.
You can come out here and enjoy the day with your family, see what America was like 100 years ago, because really you might be the only person out here at the time.
At 211 degrees, water is hot. At 212 degrees, water becomes steam, and it changed the world. What a great opportunity to come out and check it out on the great things that make America great on your long way home.